NVIDIA has signed a multi-year agreement worth about $1.5 billion with Amkor, one of the largest back-end packaging companies in the world. And that agreement comes with a prepayment. This is not simply an order for parts. The way I see it, NVIDIA did not just buy products with that money. It went out and bought the future of its supply chain and the very order in which customers get served. And the ones who end up in trouble because of this move are in fact the other semiconductor makers. Today, I'll walk you through exactly how that works.
Hello everyone, I'm Ty, with 31 years in the semiconductor industry. Today, I'm taking up the $1.5 billion strategic partnership between NVIDIA and Amkor. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the main battlefield of AI chips has shifted to the back end of manufacturing, and how a single move, paying in advance, is starting to change the way resources are allocated across the entire industry. All right, let's get started.
As I always do, let me start with something closer to everyday life. Picture the world of premium gift boxes. The luxury suites inside are made by famous brand names, but the final steps, putting them into boxes, wrapping them, and inspecting them, are handled by specialist finishing workshops staffed by highly skilled craftspeople. No matter how good the contents are, until that workshop has finished its work, the product never reaches the store shelf.
Then a gift-giving boom hits and orders come flooding in. The finishing workshops have only so many craftspeople and only so much equipment, so every brand ends up waiting in line. Which order the workshop decides to start on now directly determines each brand's sales. Finishing is no longer a minor last step tacked on at the end. It has become the lifeline of the business. So the king of the industry makes its move. Instead of simply buying finished goods, it hands the workshop a large sum of money up front and offers to cover the cost of building new work floors and training new craftspeople as well. The workshop can now invest with confidence, and the king secures its future production capacity. It's not a bad deal for either side. The real aim behind that advance payment is to lock up the equipment, the craftspeople, and the development time that will be added in the future, and to line all of it up with its own product plans in advance. Rather than going around hunting for whatever slots happen to be open, it has the workshop build the slots it needs. What the king reserved was not products, it was the workshop's entire future. So what happens to the other brands, the ones holding nothing but ordinary purchase orders? It's hard to imagine them being treated in the same order as the king, who holds a long-term contract backed by cash paid in advance. The new equipment and the newly trained craftspeople all move for the king first. From here, let me explain concretely how this stylized story is actually playing out on the real industrial stage. The company at the center of this is Amkor. It's a major US-based OSAT, an outsourced semiconductor assembly and test provider that specializes in what we call the back end of chip manufacturing. On July 23, 2026, Amkor announced a multi-year strategic partnership with NVIDIA. The scale of the agreement is $1.5 billion, and it covers the joint development of advanced packaging and test technology for next-generation AI chips. This agreement includes a prepayment from NVIDIA. Amkor will use those funds to expand its advanced packaging capacity inside the United States, including in the state of Arizona. For NVIDIA, it's a mechanism that secures the production capacity it will need in the future, while at the same time pushing Amkor to make the capital investment. I should add that the specific amount of the prepayment has not been disclosed. So why does the back end matter this much? An AI chip is not finished the moment the GPU die is made. You need an advanced packaging step that connects components like the GPU, the HBM memory, and the interposer at extremely high density, and then tests the whole thing as a finished product. As chips get physically larger and carry more stacks of HBM, the capacity of this back-end step has become the constraint that governs AI chip supply. Even if you can secure the compute die and the HBM, if you don't have the capacity to put them together, you simply cannot ship. There's a second aim here as well, and that's closing the loop on the supply chain. It supports building a system where AI chips manufactured in the United States are packaged and tested in the United States too, without being shipped back overseas. A GPU maker involving itself directly in the capital spending of a back-end company.
with this deal, that shift has finally come into sharp focus. Now for the heart of the matter. $1.5 billion sounds enormous. In Japanese terms, that's roughly 250 billion yen, or, half-jokingly, about 2 of Shohei Ohtani's 10-year contracts. And yet, NVIDIA's revenue in its most recent quarter was $81.6 billion. $1.5 billion is barely 2% of a single quarter's sales. This is not an investment that bets the fate of the company. It's more like buying a ticket to reserve your seat.
Seen from Amkor's side, though, the view changes completely. Amkor's revenue in 2025 was about $6.7 billion. A total contract value of $1.5 billion is more than 20% of that. What is a small outlay for NVIDIA is, for Amkor, large enough to move management decisions. This asymmetry in financial scale is exactly why a single move, paying in advance, can shift an entire supply chain, at least as I see it. And NVIDIA is not relying on Amkor alone. In the U.S. manufacturing plan it announced in 2025, it listed SPIL, part of ASE, the largest player in this field, alongside Amkor as its packaging partners. So this deal is not a switch away from ASE. It's a move to grow Amkor into a second thick pillar. Rather than searching for capacity that happens to be free, NVIDIA is having the capacity it needs built for it. So what happens to the other semiconductor makers? Equipment, advanced substrates, testers, materials, and engineers are all finite. It's hard to imagine a customer holding nothing but ordinary purchase orders being treated in the same order as NVIDIA, with its long-term contracts and its money paid in advance. I think the ones most exposed are high-performance chips that require high-density packaging or specialized testing, things like CPUs, networking ASICs, and AI accelerators. NVIDIA is not only increasing its own supply, it is also locking up, ahead of time, the future equipment, the people, and the development hours that other companies could have used. There are differences in escape routes, too. IDMs that own their own assembly and test sites can absorb some of the squeeze by adjusting the balance between in-house work and outsourcing. But fabless companies, which own no factories at all, have almost no such escape route. Second-tier OSATs could, in principle, take up the slack, but advanced packaging is not a world where you just install the equipment and you're done. Building up yield, customer qualification, and a track record in volume production takes time, so they are unlikely to become a quick alternative. In yesterday's video, I talked about how NVIDIA's research and development capacity is on another level entirely. This agreement shows that being on another level is not limited to development spending. Front-end, back-end, and system manufacturing, NVIDIA is pouring money one after another into every part of the supply chain it needs. More important than the $1.5 billion figure itself, in my view, is the simple fact that it can execute contracts of this size again and again. Let me also think about the impact on Japan. If the back end becomes a strategic asset for AI chips, that could be a real tailwind for investment in the Japanese industries that support it. Things like encapsulation materials and substrates and inspection and assembly equipment. On the other hand, the competition for Japanese chip makers to secure capacity for advanced packaging could well become tougher than it has ever been. Here is my conclusion. NVIDIA is not buying semiconductors. It is buying the future of the supply chain and the order in which customers get served. In itself, that is a perfectly rational way to secure supply. But that rational behavior is quietly narrowing the options available to other manufacturers, and it is starting to change how resources are allocated across the whole semiconductor industry. I think this agreement is an unusually clear illustration of exactly that. Let me wrap up. NVIDIA and Amkor have signed a multi-year agreement worth about $1.5 billion, and a prepayment will expand advanced packaging capacity inside the United States. That figure is barely 2% of a single quarter's sales for NVIDIA, but more than 20% of a full year's revenue for Amkor. It's a deeply asymmetric deal. The king locks up the future equipment, the future people, and even the place in line. The back end is no longer a supporting role. It has become the lead actor that determines how many AI chips actually get made. That's all for today. I'll keep bringing you semiconductor news and analysis. So if you found this useful, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. This has been Ty on Semiconductor News Decoded.